So I just came out into the pontoon to get everything set up to talk to you because it's like one of the coolest parts of my day. And I have a lot of cool parts of every day. So, that's saying something. But anyway, I was moving the chairs out of the way to, put the camera up or whatever. And one just sort of fell over and there was a big clank. And I'm like, what the actual is happening? And this is what's happening. A leg came off of the chair. So that's a thing. And I'm glad it didn't happen when somebody was trying to sit on it because that would have been a disaster. But also since it's a bar, it would have been kind of funny as well, depending on how long you'd been partying for the day, I guess. But I have a leg. But yeah, no, that's it. That's the whole story. I don't really have anything else for you except that was weird and I wanted to share it because I have a leg in my hand and I'm probably going to be like waving with it and stuff because I don't know, I guess I could just put it down. But that, again, nothing to do with any of the stuff. It's just my life. I will tell you what we are doing in just a moment. But before I do, hello, I am Mrs. Soap and Clay. Let's make stuff.
One, two, three,
How's it going, Sudsers? Welcome back to the channel. You are at Soap and Clay, where we make all the soapy things, and you are here for day 143 of 365 days of soap, and we are doing the sister bar to the bar we did yesterday. It's kind of where this whole awesome little thing began. We are making the Anne Boleyn soap, and I find Anne Boleyn to be a very fascinating character, just across the board, much like her sister Mary, because they're known, but I don't know, in the case of like Anne Boleyn, she's known for, I think, things that aren't necessarily fair. And I'm going to talk about that because I actually do have opinions on whether or not she was cheating on Henry VIII and whether she was cheating on Henry VIII with her brother. And we're going to have a conversation about that and all of the things while making soap because, that's my brand. Say weird things, make soap, lather, rinse, repeat. And so today, that's what we're doing. So let's go to the video, talk about Anne Boleyn, the inspiration behind the soap, and why I decided on the design that I did. Okay, so Anne Boleyn. First up, the scent that we're doing with this. It is a Santal Blush, which is a Tom Ford dupe from Wellington, I want to say. And the reason why I did this is because the Santal Blush is sexy and woodsy and mysterious and sexy. It's just sexy. And the thing is, I kind of feel like Anne Boleyn was probably pretty sexy. Because what monarch would actually spend like a decade of his life trying to bang someone unless she was like super sexy? Right? This is my thinking. And with this, I'm also mimicking what we did with Mary Boleyn's bar from yesterday, but mixing up the colors, right? Because we don't need necessarily the Boleyn sigil, which we talked about yesterday. We arguably need the Tudor colors. And so, that's the red rose with the green, and all the things going through it. Because, again, arguably, Anne Boleyn is the only reason that the Tudor dynasty lasted as long as it did. Why? Well, because she gave birth to Elizabeth I, who became, again, arguably, England's most influential ruler to ever exist in the history of literal ever. Okay, that all out of the way. Anne Boleyn, Henry Tudor's second wife. Henry VIII's second wife. Can't just say Henry Tudor, because that's also what his daddy was named. Henry VIII. Why was he so obsessed with having a son? It's kind of crazy, right? 21st century, we look back on that and we're like, what's the big deal? Here's the thing. Henry VIII, his daddy, Henry VII, kind of stole the crown. So they're the Lancasters and the Yorks, right? And essentially they both split off. They split off of the same dynastic family, the Plantagenets. And they had these big wars, and there was all this who actually has control? The Yorks or the Lancasters? And then the Yorks did some shiesty shit and killed off all of the Lancasters. Enter Henry VII in some sort of ill-begotten, I'm gonna take the crown kind of way, through like a stepmother type situation, and the Tudors were born. So because of the Tudors, arguably, again, ill-gotten gains, it was very important for them to have male heirs to really solidify the Tudor dynasty. And, Henry VII, he did his due diligence. He had 2 sons, right? They had a bunch of kids. Also, he married a York girl, and so thus solidifying the Lancasters and the Yorks back together. So there should have been no more infighting, but there was still infighting. Holy shit. Like, the number of times that Elizabeth I was the assassination attempts, stop it. Anyway, not the point. We're talking about Henry VIII. Well, we're specifically talking about Anne Boleyn, but Henry VIII did not get a son from Catherine of Aragon, who was also his older brother's wife. And he died real young, like a month or so into his marriage to Catherine of Aragon. And she always said, hey, no, we never consummated that marriage. And I don't believe that, but it also doesn't matter. It also doesn't matter. She said it, so, whatever. But Henry rode big hard on this whole thing about how, well, no, it's like incestuous. Right? That I'm married to my dead brother's widow. And so that's why God is not giving me a son. But he didn't think for a hot minute that marrying Anne Boleyn, who's like, sister, he had also, done the nasty with. That's not a problem, right? That's not an issue at all. Nope, we're good. Anyway, point is, Anne Boleyn, second wife, Henry VIII, because he really wanted a boy. And he didn't get a boy. He got Elizabeth, who became Elizabeth I. And she's awesome. Like, my literature focus was actually specifically in Elizabethan literature, because that was like the golden age for all things, but for sure, literature. So she ended up being a cool cat, right? But Henry VIII at the time was like, no, want a son. And so I think he basically concocted this whole bullshit, my wife committed adultery with a musician and a courtier and her brother. Like, how is it that we are just fine with this, right? Like, we just, we look back on history with, men and go, oh, yeah, no, Samesies. Like basically the way men thought back then, they think now, and their intellect has improved, but kind of slightly or whatever. But we look back at women like 400 years ago and go, oh, yeah, no, you guys were super stupid, right? You, women, big dumb, big dumb. So dumb that the Queen of literal freaking England would cheat on the King of literal freaking England with, not only like a courtier and a musician and, whatever, but her brother. And just like accept that as gospel. Like, yeah, you totally banged your brother. And so you're going to get beheaded by that. That is bullshit. There is no way that any woman was that stupid. You were the Queen of England. That's not happening. That was a bullshit excuse to remove her because Henry wanted a boy, really. And, other reasons, of course, too. Yeah, so sadly, ultimately, I believe Anne Boleyn's life was cut tragically short for something she didn't freaking do. And interestingly, everyone that was accused of having slept with Anne Boleyn, right? The only person that actually admitted to it was the musician. And at that time, there's no record of the musician having ever been actually beaten and interrogated in a horrible fashion. But he was the only one that they could have done so with. He was the only one that they could have done so with because everybody else was too highborn. So, and he was the only one that ever actually admitted to it, which, it says that probably he was probably beaten into this admission. Maybe. I don't know. But again, I have to go back to the whole thing. Like, we're not dumb as females. We've never been dumb. There is no way that you just whatever. And so I am tired at the end of, all of this with the slut shaming of women across the board. But, we're looking at the Boleyn sisters specifically right now for this series. And, Mary Boleyn, the great and infamous whore. Huh? Joke's on you. My lineage on the throne today. And Anne Boleyn lost her literal freaking head for something that I don't see it. I don't see it as a possibility that this woman who was smart enough to actually snag, like, in her little web, the King of England for a decade. Because it took like a decade for them to get through the whole Catholic divorce, not divorce, whatever. Hey, let's start Church of England, whatever thing for a decade. For a decade. And then she's going to be dumb enough to have sex with her brother? No, that's not that's not a thing. Anne Boleyn is, I think, unfairly remembered in history. And, even if you don't actually remember her unfairly, that's awesome. She also deserves to be recognized and remembered in, I guess, soap form. Right? Because that's what I'm doing. This is just a way for me to talk about history, you guys. But also, look, I made some soap. And I'm calling it Anne Boleyn. It's a good time. And, yeah, the mother of Queen Elizabeth I. Most influential ruler ever in England. Last of the Tudor dynasty. That is day 143. Anne Boleyn. She probably did not screw her brother. Yeah, I don't think she was doing things with her brother. That just doesn't make sense to me. Does not compute. But there it is, the Anne Boleyn soap. And yeah, no, I think these bars go really well together. Kind of flipping the design, Mary's with the color inside and then Anne on the... You get it. You saw it. If you didn't see Mary's, go watch it. It was cool, but I think they fit together, and I enjoyed doing this bar quite a lot. I enjoy learning things about history or talking about things that I know about history. You know, just, I guess, in a box to you who came here for soap, so you might have turned me off today, but it's also probably not the first time you did. And if you did so, I mean, that's fine. That's okay. You don't have to learn things and stuff that you might not care about, but I do, and I did it, and so that was fun. If you are interested in Mary Boleyn or Anne Boleyn, you know the drill. You can't get these soaps until we are done with the line, and we have 2 more sister sets yet to tackle. If you are interested in seeing what other sister sets we have to tackle, you should subscribe. That would be excellent. For those of you who have subscribed, hey, thank you. You are excellent. I appreciate my sudsers and their willingness to sort of humor me and go along on these crazy rides with me whenever I decide that I want to do a new theme. And you're doing so again today. Thank you. I'm out of here for today. I will see you guys all again tomorrow for another round of soapy fun. Bye.